Hello, this is G now. Before we begin, I want to make it clear that today's content is completely free of any political bias. Now, let's get started. The topic I want to talk about today is the red button, blue button game, which has been highly controversial around the world lately. The rules are very simple. 2 buttons are given to people all over the world, and they vote in secret. There are only 2 choices. One is a red button, and the other is a blue button. The conditions are as follows. If the number of people who press the blue button exceeds 50% of the total, everyone survives, regardless of which button they chose. However, if the number of people who press the blue button does not exceed 50%, everyone who pressed the blue button dies. On the other hand, those who press the red button will survive in any case. Now, which one would you press? Would you press the red button, or would you press the blue button? The reason this game is interesting is that at first glance, the answer seems easy. If everyone presses the red button, which guarantees survival, everyone will live. So, pressing the red button would be the right choice, wouldn't it? People who say they will press the red button usually speak with great confidence. Sometimes they speak quite strongly, as if they can't understand the people who would choose the blue button. Are they bad at math? Did they not understand the game? Can't they calculate utility? At first glance, it sounds like a valid point. Red is safe and blue is dangerous. So, this game looks like a very simple survival problem. They even go as far as saying this. If you press the red button, you survive unconditionally. So why bother pressing the blue button and creating a risk? Choosing the red button isn't being selfish. The people who press the blue button and unnecessarily create risks are worse and stupider. And those stupid humans are better off dead, they say. Now, is this game really just about calculating my own survival? This question is very important. The reason this seemingly simple button game sparks such fierce debate is because it directly touches upon the core philosophical questions that humanity has developed to maintain society. That is, individual reason and collective morality. People who press the red button usually keep their utility function very simple. Whether I die or I live, that is the question. Based on this criterion, those who say they will press the red button are not wrong. They are totally unwavering. However, those who say they will press the blue button do not judge solely on that. They don't just look at whether they themselves live, but also look at whether other people die. They also consider what kind of person they acted as, and what kind of world their choice creates. Therefore, this game is not simply a matter of survival probability, but a matter of how utility is defined. While the utility function of the person choosing the red button focuses on their own survival, the utility function of the person choosing the blue button includes a world where everyone lives together. What clashes is not math skills and intelligence, but the standard of judgment. In other words, people who press the blue button are not bad at calculating, but their standard of calculation is different. If this difference is not understood, we have no choice but to criticize each other's choices. The red side looks at the blue side and says, "Why are you trying to risk dying? Can't you do the math?" And the blue side looks at the red side and says, "Why are you only trying to save yourself when you can save everyone?" Now, let's look at this game a bit more from a game theory perspective. Many people talk about this like the prisoner's dilemma. If both cooperate, they both get good results. But if I betray when the other person cooperates, I get a bigger benefit. Conversely, when the other person betrays, I also have to betray to reduce my losses. Ultimately, betrayal seems rational for each individual, but the result ends up being worse than if both had cooperated. The red button and blue button have similar aspects, but this game can be seen as closer to Jean-Jacques Rousseau's stag hunt game metaphor rather than the prisoner's dilemma. Let's consider an old metaphor. Once upon a time, there were hunters. If they all cooperate and catch a stag, everyone can eat their fill. But to catch the stag, everyone must cooperate. If even one person drops out in the middle, the stag hunt can fail. Then everyone will inevitably starve that day. On the other hand, a hare can be caught alone. The hare is small and the reward is small, but it is safe. Here, there are 2 choices. Will you hunt the stag or will you hunt the hare? The stag is a big reward, but requires cooperation, while the hare is a small reward, but can be done alone. If we apply this to the game, it goes like this. The blue button is the stag. If everyone cooperates, everyone can survive. On the other hand, the red button is the hare. Survival is guaranteed even if you are alone. The core of the stag hunt game is that while cooperation yields the best result, when people cannot be certain whether others will cooperate or not, they flee to the safe choice. Therefore, the people pressing red might not simply be selfish people. They are the people who choose the safe hare amidst uncertainty. It would be great to catch the stag, but how do I know if you guys will really cooperate until the end? This is the mind of red, but the person pressing the blue button says this: someone needs to stay in the stag hunt. If everyone only catches hares, we will never reach a better outcome. This is the mind of blue. Looked at this way, red and blue are not simply a difference between being smart and being stupid. Red is the rationality of risk aversion and self-preservation, and blue is the rationality of cooperation and co-survival. Both are different types of rationality. Now, let's dive into the thoughts of the person pressing the blue button. Why do people who press the blue button say they will press the blue button? Of course, some people might have misunderstood the game or didn't read the conditions properly. But many people say they will press the blue button even after fully understanding the conditions. That's because they see the game this way. If I press the red button, I will live. But the more people make that choice, the more the people who press the blue button die. And if everyone presses red, everyone lives. But what kind of world is that? There is an important counter-argument here. People who say they will press the red button often say this: if everyone without exception presses the red button, no one dies. But why deliberately press the blue button and create risk? The people who press the blue button are actually the problem. This statement seems quite strong. In reality, if everyone presses the red button, there are no blue button pressers, so no one would die. However, the problem is that there is no guarantee that everyone will press the red button. 100% does not exist in reality. Always, someone presses the blue button. There are those who press it for moral reasons, those who interpret the problem differently, those who believe in collective survival, those who press it by mistake. And there could be people who are too young or haven't fully grasped the rules for whatever reason. It means that among your family, a child who is not of an age to make judgments, visually impaired parents, or sick spouses might make the wrong choice and press the blue button. If so, at the actual moment you press red, you are not merely in an abstract world where it's safe if everyone presses the red button. You are making a choice that affects the survival probability of the people who press the blue button. It is logically correct that everyone lives if everyone presses the red button, but it erases the fact that realistically, there will always be people who press the blue button. And the person who presses the blue button says, I don't want to be on the side that abandons even those people. There is a philosopher who comes to mind when thinking about such a problem of choice. It is the 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant. When judging whether an action is moral, Kant does not simply look at whether the outcome was good. He asks this: is it okay if everyone follows the principle I am adhering to right now? Now, if we apply this question to the red and blue button game, the story changes. Red's principle can be expressed like this: when my survival is threatened, I make the choice that guarantees my survival. This principle is understandable. However, Kant asks one more time here. Then, if everyone follows that principle, what kind of world does that world become? If everyone presses the red button, everyone can live. But the people in that world are not beings who take mutual responsibility for each other's survival. Each would say, I am going to live. Another person's survival is another person's choice. In Kant's view, this can be problematic, because one of the most important things in Kant's ethics is that humans are not merely means, but ends in themselves. The attitude of saying, I will find my own way to live, so you take care of your own survival, and pushing the life and death of others out of my calculator, is no different from treating the humanity of others not as an end, but as a disposable commodity that is fine whether it exists or not. Judging the survival value of a person based on their level of intelligence or the rationality of their choice and deciding it's actually beneficial if they are eliminated is in itself an attitude that treats humans as disposable commodities rather than ends. Therefore, from Kant's perspective, Blue can be understood not simply as an emotional choice, but as a choice that respects others as ends in themselves. The people who press the blue button are not ignorant of math. Those people are saying this: I will look not only at my survival, but also at what kind of human world the principle of my choice creates. However, this issue does not simply end with the question of whether the principle of my choice can be universalized. Kant asks whether the motives and principles of the action I am about to take are unconditionally justified, regardless of the outcome. Going one step deeper, in front of this button, we ultimately face the question, what kind of person will I become? The philosopher who comes to mind at this point is the 20th century French existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. Sartre saw human beings not as beings living according to a predetermined nature, but as beings who create themselves through choices. Sartre placed great importance on choice. He even went so far as to say that choosing not to choose is also a choice. So everything is my choice. Doing nothing, or even saying you won't press a button, means you have chosen not to press the button. Every single thing you do is a choice. Therefore, from Sartre's point of view, this game is not a simple problem of calculation, but a matter of what kind of human being I establish myself as. Speaking in a Sartrean way, we haven't simply become calculating machines in front of the buttons. We are choosing what kind of human we will become in front of those buttons. You can press the red button, or you can press the blue button. What's important is not which button you press, but that you can take responsibility for that choice as your own. That you can be defined as a certain type of person by that choice, and that you can take responsibility for it. The attitude Sartre really hates is this: I have no choice but to press the red button if I want to live. It's natural according to game theory. Mathematically calculated, the red button is right. Game theory did not move your fingers. Math did not press the button for you. The one who considered all of that, made the choice, and pressed the button is you. If you pressed the red button, you have chosen the human image that says, I will prioritize my own survival. If you press the blue button, you have chosen the humanity that says, I will stake myself on the possibility of surviving together with others. Both are choices, but for Sartre, a choice is not something for me alone. When I make a choice at the same time, I am setting a standard for how humans should act in this kind of situation. The person who presses the red button sets the standard. In a dangerous situation, it is okay for a human to prioritize their own survival. And the person pressing the blue button sets the standard. Even in dangerous situations, a human can participate in the possibility of another's survival. I will choose a world where everyone participates in each other's survival possibilities, rather than a world where everyone runs away just to save themselves. This is what they would be saying. This is not a simple miscalculation, but an existential resolve. Choosing myself means choosing all of humanity as he sees it. From Sartre's perspective, the real problem is not whether it is the red button or the blue button. It is hiding one's choice behind excuses. Pressing the red button and saying, this isn't something I can choose, it's perfectly natural, is self-deception. Pressing the blue button and saying, I am a good person, so of course, it's blue, can also be leaning on one's self-image. Sartre questions, can you bear your choice with your own freedom? Neither red nor blue can escape from this question. However, Simone de Beauvoir doesn't easily tell someone, you should also know how to sacrifice for others. You have to sacrifice too. A freely chosen blue can be ethical, but a forced blue can be problematic. The moment you push someone saying, you are a bad person if you don't press the blue button, the blue they choose is no longer a free choice but a forced sacrifice. Simone de Beauvoir would ask both sides, are you truly choosing freely? Or are you trapping the other in a certain role? And she would warn against just one argument. Everyone lives if they press the red button. So why foolishly press the blue button? Simone de Beauvoir strongly criticized those who do not look at concrete human beings in this reality, but blindly cling to some abstract doctrine or system, calling them serious men. This means that they erase the other in reality, as she argued. In an abstract world where everyone presses red, no one dies. But in the real world, there are people who press the blue button. These would be young children, the elderly, those with cognitive impairments, and people trying to include the freedom and survival of others within their own choices. We can see them everywhere around us, and the moment we treat them merely as people who are bad at math, overly emotional, or stupid people who deserve to die, we reduce them from free subjects to inferior others, making the most irresponsible choice that drives the entire society toward a catastrophe while ignoring uncontrollable variables. Simone de Beauvoir criticizes that very point. The person who presses the blue button is not necessarily a hero, and the person who presses the red button is not necessarily a villain. However, the attitude of degrading those who press the blue button as stupid beings is philosophically a very poor attitude, because within that person's choice lies a value that goes beyond calculation. This is not simple sentimentality, but an ethical direction. Now, let's go back to the first question. Are the people who say they will press the blue button really the ones who don't understand the problem? No, at least not all of them are. Among the people pressing the blue button, many understand the logic of those who say they will press the red button. They know that red is safer based on individual survival and that it is stronger in terms of utility theory. They also know that in the stag hunt game, catching the hare is safer. Even so, they are asking, is utility really just about my survival alone? Can I push the lives of others out of my calculations? Is it okay if everyone follows the principle I have chosen? What kind of human being do I want to live as? These questions are not on the opposite side of mathematics. They are merely questions in an area that mathematics cannot answer. Looking only at individual survival, red is unconditionally advantageous. Red is the right answer. But that is as far as mathematics goes. Mathematics cannot answer questions like, what kind of life should you live? How should you treat others? What kind of world will you choose? Such questions are the realm of philosophy and the realm of life. Now, even so, we cannot criticize the person who presses the red button. This is a philosophically defensible position as well. From a Thomas Hobbes perspective, self-preservation is the most fundamental right. And from a libertarian perspective, my life is not a public good. Also, from a supererogatory perspective, blue might be a noble choice, but it may not be a duty that must be forced upon everyone. If red is the rationality of individual survival, blue is the rationality of collective survival. If red is the logic of risk aversion, blue is the logic of creating trust. If red means at least I must live, then blue means we must all be able to live together. The two statements are different from each other, but both are very human statements and valid arguments. This is exactly what makes this debate interesting. The moment we choose a button, we are not simply choosing a color. We are choosing a perspective on humanity. Why did you choose that way? What kind of view on humanity lies behind that choice? What kind of world is that choice creating? From Kant's perspective, it is a choice to treat others as ends in themselves. From Sartre's perspective, it is an existential resolve to choose what kind of human being I will become. And from Simone de Beauvoir's perspective, it is an ethical choice to establish my freedom together with the freedom of others. The real question of this game is this: as what kind of human being do I want to survive? Now, I ask you all again, which button will you press? Hit subscribe and join us here at G Now. We'll keep watching the future unfold together. See you in the next video.